Hi, my name is Mark. So now you've built your Astrid, or you've purchased it, we now need to put some software on it. So you'll purchase two things. One of them will be an SD card. Now the operating system goes on this guy, and this plugs into the Raspberry Pi just here. When you plug it in, just make sure that the contacts are pointing in that direction. And make sure you don't push it down on that side, make sure you push it inside the slot, like that. That's where the SD card will go, although we need to put some software on it first. And then on this guy, on the USB drive, you need to put essentially the Astrid file system. And what happens with that is that will be used to store your settings and your star catalogs, for plate solving and for exposure analysis, and also it's to store your video files as well. So essentially this guy stores the operating system in your program, this guy stores all your individual files. Okay, the only thing that's stored in there that's custom is your Wi-Fi settings. Okay, so first thing we need to do is write this guy. So this is called a micro SD card. Now you're going to need a micro SD card reader as well. So this is one for a Mac that plugs into the USB port. Some computers have them built in. Sometimes you'll find the slot will fit an adapter card that's that size, like this guy. Or you might find that the slot will fit the smaller form. Okay, so you have a couple of options. With your SD card, you'd have got an adapter as well. So in my case, because it's the largest slot, I need to put that in there. So look for a slot on your PC or your Mac. If you don't have one, then you're going to need to get an adapter, which can be purchased up on Amazon. Just look for an SD card adapter, and then this will plug in there. So I'm now going to plug this into a Mac so I can write it. I'm going to be providing two sets of instructions here. The first one will be for Mac, and the second set of instructions will be for Windows. So if you're using Windows, then you'll need to skip ahead to the Windows section before continuing. If you're using Mac, then just stay here listening. Okay, so I'm now on the Mac. First thing we need to do is we need to download this file here. So I've already downloaded it, it's on my desktop. To get the location of this file, you'll need to either speak to myself or Steve Preston or someone else who already has Astrid. The reason I keep this file somewhat hidden is just to prevent excessive download of the file for people who don't need it. So just ask and we'll supply the file. So assume you got this file downloaded. The file's quite large, it's about just under 2 gigs, it's 1.89 gigs. To get that downloaded first, next thing we need to do is we need to install a tool to write it with. And to do that we go to raspberrypi.com/software, and in there you'll find something called Raspberry Pi Imager. So I'm on Mac OS, so I'm going to download for Mac OS. This is downloading now. And then when it's downloaded, you can open it. We're doing that here, that opens the image, and what we need to do is drag that into applications. So I'm going to do that now. And that's now in applications. And just to make it easy to find this in the future, I'm just going to drag that onto my desktop down here. There you go. Now we've finished with that DMG, or the disk archive, so we're just going to eject that here. First thing we need to do is run the Raspberry Pi Imager. So we just start that up there. I'm just going to minimize this. Okay, first thing it says is it's an app downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? So yes, we do. We click open and it opens. Now we have to choose the device we're imaging. In this case, it's the Raspberry Pi 4. So we're going to put that in there. We've got to choose the image we're going to put in there. So we've got a bunch of images we can choose from here, but we're actually going to use this custom image that I defined for Astrid. The reason is you've got the operating system, the software, all on the one SD card, and if you use that you'll find life a lot easier. So I'm just going to click on use custom here, and then I'm going to It's asked if it wants to access the files in my downloads folder. Just going to click OK. I'm going to go to the desktop and find this file here. Asks if I want to access the files on the desktop, and we're going to select that image there. So we've got that selected. Now the next thing we need to do is choose a storage. You've got to be very careful what you write to here, because you might write it to a system disk. Now I don't have the SD card plugged in yet, so it's not going to show here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug the SD card in now. Card is plugged in. Wait a few seconds for it to be registered. And then I'm going to click on choose storage. Now you see we've got a new item on there, and it's called volumes untitled, and it's 63 gigs, which is the size of the SD card. The SD card's 64 gigs and this is 63.9, so that's the one we want. Okay, so we select that, then we click next. Now it asks if we want to apply any customization settings, and on the face of it you think you would edit settings and change things like Wi-Fi if you're familiar with this tool, but don't do that. Just accept the defaults for now, because we're going to set that later. So we're just going to say no, and then it's going to tell us that all the existing card on that device is going to be erased, so I'm going to click yes. Okay, and then it comes up with preparing to write. It's going to ask for your password here, so just put your password for your machine in here. Okay, now the first thing it's asking for is access to removable files on a removable volume. So we'll click OK. Now occasionally, if it doesn't write this automatically, you might need to go to Apple System Settings, and then go down to Privacy and Security, and then it will say, I think it's one of these full disk files and folders, Raspberry Pi Imager, and you'll need to check removable volumes, downloads folder, and desktop folder. Okay. It's pretty fast to write. It can vary according to the speed of the SD card and the drive you're using. So we're just going to zip ahead here, let this complete. Okay, so that's now complete, so we click continue. Okay, and now we can eject the SD card. So the SD card's already ejected, you don't have to do anything, so we're just going to pull that out. We're done with this for now, so let's get rid of that. The other thing we're going to do while we're here is we're going to download VNC. So it's called Real VNC, and we're going to put in download here. I'm just going to click on that, just here where it says download VNC viewer. So the link for that is realvnc.com/en/connect/download/viewer. Okay, we're going to say OK to the cookies. So this looks good. We're going to download our DMG, so we click on download Real VNC viewer. Okay, you don't have to create an account. I know it prompts you to do one, but you don't have to create it. So we just click allow here. And now that's downloaded, we're just going to open this up. So let's open that up. We're going to drag Real VNC View into applications. Okay, I've already got one in here, but I'm just going to replace this one. We're just going to redo this. So let's do this. Start out from scratch again. You're going to need your password because you're updating the system. Okay, that's ready to go. Now, if you go to applications and you scroll down, you should be able to find VNC Viewer. We're just going to drag that onto the desktop. That makes it a bit easier in future when we're going to be launching VNC to connect to Astrid. So I've just ejected that one. Good. Okay, now close the web browser. We don't need that anymore. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put in here, again, we need to open it because it's an app that's been downloaded. Click OK. Okay, so we're going to use, first of all, I'm going to check off send anonymous usage data, and we're going to say use Real VNC Viewer without signing in. Okay, now we're going to need to add a machine for use in the future. So let's just do that. So we're just going to right click on this panel here. I'm going to click on New Connection. Now it's going to ask us for a name. When you first start Astrid, it's called astrid.local. So the server name is astrid.local. The name is astrid.local. Okay. And the rest we just leave as the default. So we're just going to click OK. There are other options as well, but I generally recommend leaving those as the defaults as well. So we're just going to click OK. Okay, and now that's set. Now you can also we can also put VNC on a tablet as well. I actually use that in the field because it's a lot easier. But you can put it on a desktop, a laptop, or a tablet. In this case, I've got it on the desktop. It's kind of handy having it on the desktop as too when you're at home. So that's ready to go now. So now we're going to take that SD card that we created. We're going to put it into Astrid, and then we're going to power Astrid on with the GPS antenna connected, and the GPS antenna should have a good signal. So this is a Windows setup. I'm running Windows on a Mac at the moment, so it's running inside a virtual machine. So some things will look a little different, but it's still Windows that we're working with. So first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have the Astrid image downloaded. So you can obtain this image either from myself or Steve Preston. I don't release the site publicly to prevent downloads for no reason, as it costs per download. So so download the astrid.image, put it in your downloads folder. I've already done that here. So first thing we need to do is we need to download the Raspberry Pi imaging tool to write the image to the SD card. So this is where we need to go, raspberrypi.com/software. And then if you scroll down, there's download for Windows, so we click on that. It will then download. Then we open it and we run the installer. Okay. Okay, so now that's finished. We run the imager. We can minimize this now. And the first thing we need to do is we need to choose the device. So this is going to be a Raspberry Pi 4, so we select that. Next thing we need to do is choose the operating system. We're going to use a custom image here. Basically, Astrid is stored on this custom image, and it saves you having to rebuild it from scratch. So it's a lot easier to use this. So we'll just click Use Custom. And then if you're looking in Downloads folder, you want to find this file here, which is astridimage.xyz. Click Open. Now you've got to choose the storage. Now you've got to watch out on this in this list that it hasn't got the system disks in there, which is good. But if you ever see anything in there, make sure you're writing to the correct thing. Now I don't have the SD card installed at the moment, so it's coming up with nothing. So I'm just going to put the SD card in. That's now in the card reader. Leave it a few seconds. And then, because I'm on the VM, you won't have to do this if you're on Windows native, but I'm just going to have to connect the card reader to the VM so I can access it. Okay, and then you can choose storage. And as you can see, make sure that this matches. So this is the card's 64 gigs, and the device here is 63.9, which is close enough. It's on the reader, which is the main thing. So yeah, just make sure you're writing to the right device. At this moment, in this instance, we only have one choice. Click Next. I think I did something wrong there. Let me just try it again. Okay, there you go. That's probably because I'm running in the VM. So you've got some edit settings here. You can change things like Wi-Fi in there, but I really recommend you don't because it's set up later. So just leave that one alone and just click No. It asks you if you want to overwrite the existing data on the card. Let's click Yes, and then it starts writing. We don't need this here. So now we're going to speed ahead. Okay, the write has now finished. The card will automatically be ejected, so you can just go ahead and remove the card from the SD card reader, and then plug the SD card into the Raspberry Pi. Now, the other thing we're going to do while we're here is we're going to download Real VNC, because we're going to need it shortly. We'll use that to connect to Astrid. So we click on the browser, we type in Real VNC downloads, and we click here, Real VNC. And that's the link. Now we had to be careful here because we don't want the server, we want the client. So we're going to download our VNC Connect here. So we click on that. And we scroll down and we want Real VNC Connect for Windows. Download Windows. Okay, now we don't need to set an account up here. The installer's now downloaded, so we're just going to click that. And we're going to run VNC Connect Installer 2.2.1 for Windows. Okay, we're going to accept and install. And we're good. So you're going to use it only for direct or offline connectivity here, so we're just going to click on that. Okay, and we don't want to send the anonymous usage data. Well, you might want to, I don't want to. And you want to click on Use Real VNC Viewer without signing in. Okay, and we're there, we're ready to start adding hosts. So I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, so to add Astrid, we right click on the right hand panel and we click New Connection. And then we put in astrid.local, all lowercase, for the VNC server, and astrid.local, all lowercase, for the name. And everything else we can just leave as at the default. We don't have to change anything there. And click OK. And then that's ready to go when we need it. So now we've written our SD card. We're going to put it in the Raspberry Pi. So again, make sure the contacts are pointing in the correct direction in the slot. Make sure you're not pushing it in this way, but you're pushing it in the slot there. Okay, so the SD card is now in there. I've actually got my lights covered here because I'm using this as a pre-point, but you have two little status lights there. One's red, one's green. It's red when it's got power, and if it's flashing green, it means it's active. So when it's shut down, all you'll ever see is the red LED lighting up. We also need to give it a connection to the GPS, so I'm just going to do that now. That's a GPS antenna. You can get quite a reasonable signal inside the house if you get the antenna up high, or you do it up in an upstairs room, unless you have a metal roof, of course. So I just screwed the antenna in, and also you want to give it power as well. And then we're going to switch on. I'll just switch the power on here. And you'll see a red light came on there, and occasionally you can see a little green light flashing. So if you ever want to check this, wait about 30 seconds or so. Only ever power if that green light isn't flashing, because you never want to corrupt the SD card if you can avoid it. Always shut down properly Astrid after you've finished with it. So that's ready to go. So now I need to wait possibly up to about 5 minutes sometimes for it to boot for the first time, because it has to reorganize the SD card and expand the size of the SD card. So just give that about 5 minutes. So Astrid is now powered on with the SD card in, and we're ready to connect to Astrid for the first time. So first thing we need to do is set up the Wi-Fi. I'm going to do this on the Mac. If you're using Windows, then essentially everything's the same. You're still using Real VNC. The only difference is going to be that you will set up your Wi-Fi as you would normally do in Windows to connect to the hotspot. So when Astrid first starts, it starts up advertising a hotspot. It's not connected to the internet, and we need to connect the Wi-Fi to that hotspot. So the first thing we do, and you could also do on this a tablet as well if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be a desktop machine that you're setting this up for the first time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to the Wi-Fi. How we do that on the Mac is just click on the Wi-Fi symbol, and we look for Astrid hotspot here, and we connect to it. Now the Wi-Fi, the password for Astrid hotspot and the Wi-Fi password is iota, all lowercase. We click on just like this. Okay, so we're going to click on join, and now we're connected to that Wi-Fi. Okay, so now we're going to start up VNC viewer, and we're going to double click on astrid.local, and that will start the connection. Now the first time it tries to connect, it will take a little longer because it has to exchange encryption keys. That's now been done. So now we're going to put in the username. The username is always Pi for Raspberry Pi, lowercase, and the password is always iota. So that's 1 iota. So the Wi-Fi password has 2 iotas, and the connection via VNC has 1 iota. The reason for that is because Wi-Fi needs 8 characters for a password. Okay, so now we're going to click on OK, and this will connect us for the first time. It says in here, VNC viewer requires access to local computers' accessibility features. Give access if you want. For this application, it doesn't matter, and this alert probably won't pop up on Windows. So let's click not now. Okay, we're ready to go. So, okay, so the first thing we need to do is we want to change the host name. So we're going to go in here, we're going to click on Preferences, and we're going to go to Raspberry Pi Configuration, and then we're going to click on Change Host Name. Now the reason we're doing this is if every Astrid has the same host name and you're on a deployment and there's another user nearby, then obviously it's going to start getting confusing as to which device is which. So we're going to give it a unique number. So let's call this one Astrid 20. So we just put 20 after it, and we just put OK. And it will ask to change the host name when it next reboots. We're just going to hit OK on that. We're going to hit OK here. Okay, we're going to say we don't want to reboot now, okay, because we're going to do another operation before we do that. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to change the host name to also be Astrid 20 hotspot. So we go to Wi-Fi setup, and in there's change access points SSD and password, SSID and password. That's option number 7. So we hit option number 7. Okay, and it's going to ask us, it tells us what the old name was, it's going to ask us what the new name is we want. So we want to put in here Astrid 20 hotspot. Okay, and it's going to ask for the password, iota. If you want to change it from the defaults, the password, then obviously you can, but just remember the password, otherwise you won't be able to get back in again. Okay, so we just click iota, hit return. It says the new setup will be available next time the hotspot is started. Press the key to continue. So we press the key, and then we click 8 for exit. Okay, and we're done. And then what you want to do next is click on this Raspberry Pi icon here, click shutdown, and click on reboot. Okay, that will then restart the Raspberry Pi, which will take probably about 2 minutes, 3 minutes before you see it back online again. So we'll just wait for that to reboot. Now when it's rebooted, you're going to have to connect to the new network name. So we're going to go to the Wi-Fi again, and you can see we now have Astrid 20 hotspot, so we're just going to connect to that. And we're going to put in the password, which is iota. Click join. Now, because we changed the host name, we're not going to be able to connect to it anymore, because now it's astrid20.local, not astrid.local. So we're just going to go in here, and we're going to go to properties, right click in properties, and we're going to change this to 20. And we're also going to change that to 22. So we've got astrid20.local. Okay, click on OK. Okay, now if we double click on it, we can connect. Again, it's going to do that security check again. So we just click on continue. This only ever gets asked the first time you connect to it. And the password is iota, all lowercase. Okay, lock now again, and we're connected. So now we've changed it to be on the correct host name. Now, the next thing we want to do is, we don't have any internet at the moment for this, so we want to put it on our home network. So the way Astrid works is it automatically switches between advertising a hotspot and a network and connects it to your home network. You can register multiple networks. So in this case, I'm going to register my home network, and when I'm not at home, it will advertise the Astrid hotspot. So we're just going to do this. So Wi-Fi setup. Now, to add our home network, we want option 5. Add a new Wi-Fi network to the Pi. Okay. So I hit 5, and then it's going to do, leave it for 10-15 seconds, and it's going to do a scan of all your local networks. Generally, the one with the highest signal is the Wi-Fi network you need, and it's generally number 1 on the list. So in this case, I'm going to hit number 1. So let's do that. And then it's going to ask you for a password. So type your password in for your Wi-Fi, and then hit return. Okay, and then hit return again. Okay, and then option 8 to exit. Okay, now that Wi-Fi set up, now we're going to just want to reboot one more time to make sure that it gets picked up on the new network. So while we're waiting for that to reboot, we're going to connect to our home network, so via Wi-Fi, because next time Astrid boots up, it's going to try and connect to that network. The first thing it does when Astrid boots is it looks for the network. If it can't find it immediately or can't connect to it immediately, it'll advertise a hotspot, and every minute it checks to see if it can see any networks it knows. So always, if you ever can't find Astrid immediately, then always look to see if it's advertising its own network, because the signal might not be great and it could have switched to its own network. So type my home network here. Okay, so Astrid's now rebooted, so we're going to connect to Astrid again. There you go. I typed the password wrong. I'm going to type the password correctly. Okay, and we're now connected to Astrid on our home network. So now we've done that, we're going to upgrade. It's always advisable to upgrade Astrid frequently, because your software is always changing and always improving. Generally, you're better off with the later version than an older version, because there's bug fixes and things like that. So please update frequently. It makes everybody's life a little easier. It's good from a support point of view as well, because everybody knows you're on the latest version, but also you get all those nice little features and stuff and bug fixes. So we're going to click on Astrid upgrade here. Just double click that. It asks you if you want to proceed. Say yes. And we let that run. Okay, and now we press return to reboot. And in the meantime, we're going to set up the USB key. So we're going to grab the USB key and we're going to plug it into Astrid. Now, very important, you can see that the plastic in there is blue and the plastic in there is blue as well. The blue means it's USB 3, black means it's USB 2. Now we want to make sure that we connect it into the USB 3 socket, so either of these two is fine. The reason for that is so that we can get maximum performance out of the USB drive, which you're going to need for the frame rates that Astrid records at, because it's recording raw data all the time. So just plug that into one of those blue sockets. And if you're connecting a mount, then you can put it into the black or the blue. I normally just put it in the black because it's a bit more convenient. And you often have, you've got a blue LED on this as well, so you can always put a bit of tape over it if you want to hide it if you're out and doing pre-points. Okay, so Astrid's now rebooted. We've got the USB key in. Now we're going to just need to close this off and reconnect. Okay, so next step is we need to create that, we need to format that USB key and put all the Astrid files on there that Astrid needs. Click on Format USB Drive. It asks us if we wish to continue. This is just a check. There's a number of checks here just to make sure that you're not accidentally erasing something that contains data. Is it the only USB drive plugged into Astrid? Yes. Do you wish to delete all files in the USB drive? So you need to type erase USB drive now. Okay, and then it formats, and then after it's done that, the next thing it does is it asks you to remove the USB drive. So you need to remove the USB drive from the Raspberry Pi, which I've just done. Now it's popped up a message about not ejecting, and that's fine. So, and then you put the drive back in again. This is because we're rewriting some of the partition table and various other information on the drive, so we need to make sure that that's reloaded. And you just press return, and then it waits for the drive to come online. Okay, now it's written the files to the disk, and we press return to continue. And that drive is now ready for use, and we can now start Astrid. So we just click Start Astrid here. Okay, it's defaulted to the Astro mode. I happen to not like this. I prefer the high contrast mode. So if you're not a fan of red screens, you can always put it to the high contrast. There are other colours too. You've got Berry, Astro. I go into a lot of this in the introduction to Astrid video. So we can now start. Now you want to make sure you got the right telescope selected here. There are some examples here which you can copy. Again, I go into that in the videos. Things to watch out for in particular is that you're particularly in settings, that your plate solver mounts matches the focal length in the plate solver matches the approximate focal length of your scope to start off with, and then when you've got your first plate solve, then you want to amend this to make sure that it matches what it's actually, what the actual value is it's plate solving at. You want to fill in your observer's settings, set up your telescope, make sure the aperture is correct if you want automatic report filling to happen, and yeah. So yeah, once you set that up, just click Save Changes and click Start Astrid. Now, first thing it pops up with is it needs the astrometric index file. So it bases this off the focal length that you specified. So if you do ever change focal length, it's important to connect to at least try and start at that focal length, either in the simulator or one of the telescope configs, so that you get those astrometry index files downloaded, and you want to do that when it's connected to the web, obviously. So I'm going to do that now. Click download, and it will start downloading those. And these index files are what enables it to do plate solving. You need these downloaded because it actually does offline plate solving, because you might not have internet all the time. The plate solver uses astrometry.net, which is a fairly common plate solver. And it figures out, based on your focal length, which index files you're going to need. And sometimes it can download more than one series as well, depending on what's needed. And yeah, you can always copy these files or store them somewhere as well. They're in the astrometric folder on the USB drive. And while that's downloading on the USB drive, I'll just open that here. You can see here's the astrometry file, astrometry folder where it's downloading those at the moment. Your configurations are stored under configs. OT video is where your video recordings are stored. And photo, you have 2 folders in here, which are light and polar align. When you're doing polar alignment, then the images get stored in there. When you're taking pictures, at other times they're stored in light. And these are some test plate solve images. If you want to have a image to load to plate solve, you can do that. That's just a general log file. So back to Astrid. So those index files now being downloaded. The first thing it's telling you is that the station number in Astrid is not set. Please set the number to identify a station in settings observer. So, and it's also telling me the aperture is not set. So it also says that the North American occultation report form needs downloading to enable automatic report filing. So we're going to do that now. We're just going to click yes. And then that downloads that. That's done now. So we're just going to go and set up those 2 things that we hadn't set up before. So we're just going to exit Astrid and restart it. And always important when you shut down Astrid is to wait for this little black window to disappear. There you go. Before you start it up again. That's so you don't have 2 Astrids running at once. And we're going to go to settings and we're going to sort out those settings. So the first thing it complained about is station, and station is in observer. So let's put our station number in. Now we call this one Astrid 20, so we're going to put in station 20 in there. Very handy if you have multiple stations or multiple Astrids. It will enable you to it will enable the station number to be put in the report that you submit. So we're going to put in save changes. Actually, while we're here, we're just going to set up this telescope aperture. So this one is an 80mm telescope, so let's go put 80. I click save changes, and then we're going to start Astrid again. There you go, and that's now up and running. First thing to look at is down here we've got 3 buttons that are all green, so that means all the GPS is working, we've got a good signal. I'm not going to click on site here because it has my current location in, but you can click on site and then click on update site, and that button will change from red to green. Again, I go over this in the introduction to Astrid video, so please refer to that. Essentially Astrid is now up and running. We've got our voltage up here, which is important. It's 11.88 volts. That gives you an idea of what our battery level is. And that's how to set up Astrid. Always remember, watch out for your Wi-Fi. If you're at home, then look for Astrid on your home network. Make sure your Wi-Fi is connected to that. If you're out in the field, then look for the hotspot being the Wi-Fi network that you should connect to. If you're at home and you don't get a connection over your home network, then wait a minute if you just started Astrid up and try again. If that doesn't work, then just look at your Wi-Fi and see if it's advertising the Astrid hotspot because it hasn't got a very good signal, in which case connect to that instead, or improve your Wi-Fi signal. The Raspberry Pi doesn't have a stronger Wi-Fi antenna as, say, a regular computer. So you know, just because you'll be able to connect with your phone or your tablet to your home network doesn't necessarily mean that there's enough signal for the Raspberry Pi to be connected to. And yeah, that's essentially it. Always remember to shut down Astrid properly. 2 ways to do this. You can go to the Raspberry Pi menu, click shutdown, and click shutdown, or you can just close off this window here. When you close off Astrid, it gives you an option. One of those is shut down Astrid. So we're going to click on shut down Astrid, and it will shut down then after 45 seconds. Or you can click down shut down immediately. Now when this shuts down, 2 scenarios. You either get attempting to reconnect to VNC server like I have done here, or it might just freeze on the screen as it was when you click the shutdown button. And that is normal. At that point, once you've shut down, provided you're sure you shut down, then you can close off the window and you're done. Always make sure that on the Raspberry Pi that green light has stopped flashing and you just got a solid red. Watch it for about 15 seconds and and always after shutdown give it about 15 to 20 seconds to make sure it's shut down. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Please remember to thumbs up and subscribe.